Well, that's precisely what we're talking about, the fact that parties were struggling somewhat last week to try and meet the deadline given by INEC to submit the names of their vice presidential candidate. As we know it, it would seem that perhaps only the PDP, a major party, has been able to meet that deadline. A number of other parties submitted placeholders, the names of placeholders as the VP candidate for their party, hoping that in the substitution period, they would have concluded their consultations and they will be able to put the names of those whom they intend to really run with. But last week, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who is the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, named his vice presidential candidate, and he is former governor of Delta State. Beg your pardon, current governor of Delta State, Senator Okowa. Now, it has not come without ripples, but those who argue for him say that there are very good reasons why he has been put on that ticket, and he certainly brings value on board. One of them is our guest this morning, Mr. Haruna Dandio Saidu, is a member of the PDP Board of Trustees and also the former chairman of PDP in Kebbi State. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much, Mope. It's a pleasure.
I'm sure that, you know, your party was a little maybe worried about how it was going to approach this issue of vice presidential candidate. How relieved were you when eventually you were able to reach a conclusive decision as to, you know, who was going to be the vice presidential candidate to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar?
Well, Mope, I don't think we were worried at any time in the process of coming out with the running mate to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar was in Adama. That is, it was a product of, it's a product of wide consultation within the PDP cycle, cutting across all the organs, the critical organs of the party and other critical stakeholders in the party.
Well, I use the word worried advisedly because I know that when you have capable names, when you have capable hands, and these parties are aware about who you intend to, about the fact that their names have been, you know, mentioned or have been brought on board, there'll be questions as to, you know, who you eventually settle for and how do you pacify the other people? How do you decide one over the other? This must have been a big question for you.
No, really, it were in a process of choosing one out of many or few. What needs to be done, and that is what was done, is to subject the personalities involved to rigorous scrutiny and being very dispassionate, objective, and coming out with a person that will add value not only to the ticket, but eventually, when the ticket succeeds, to governance generally. That's what transpired in the PDP.
Okay, we had the chairman of the PDP coming out to clarify certain things. He said 3 names were presented, and that contrary to rumors, no one name was actually given. What made him give that particular statement?
No, perhaps it could be due to the speculations that were making rounds within the social media circle, and they thought it was the handiwork of one person or maybe the chairman of the party or national working committee, etc. No, there was a wide, in fact, I have never seen the widest of all consultations with regards to critical and pressing issues like the one that transpired last week. There was wide consultations within the organs of the party, the Board of Trustees, the National Working Committee, the former Governors Forum, the current Governors Forum, the former Ministers Forum, and what have you. That consultation produced the person of Ifeanyi Okowa, the current governor of Delta State. And the one consideration that was uppermost in the minds of all stakeholders in the PDP is to look at this person's come up with one of them that can add value, as we've already been saying. This, and people have heard why Atiku Abubakar one, Wazir Adama one, he was presented with the 3 persons that eventually made the list, and why he decided to pick Okowa to become the presidential vice presidential candidate for the PDP. And it was a very calm, rancor-free, and very informed decision that was made.
So this has been received by all members of your party with equanimity?
Yes.
There's nobody who is
no
protesting?
No protesting. You see, Mope, in a normal situation of this nature, naturally, when you have the tax of making a choice between equals or between people who are all qualified, except, of course, because of certain considerations that will add value to that process or that decision, you will have to choose one person. It's natural, certain things can come up, but they were very mild, and within no time that has subsided. And so we are one single family, united, and put behind all certain
is that the impression you would like to give, or that's what truly is? Because we have heard some disquiet in the sense, we know that there was a committee set up by the PDP. There are those who say that, oh, the party has gone against itself to produce this vice presidential candidate, that there were some committees that were set up within the PDP to deliberate on this issue of vice presidential candidate. In some instances, we even understand that those committees voted, and Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa was not the one who emerged the choice of those committees.
Mope, much as I don't want to delve into what had gone down and has become a fast, but I would want to say, you see, there wasn't anything like maybe one person was voted or something like that. The committee that was saddled with this responsibility of coming up with the names of 3 persons to become the vice presidential ticket holder of the PDP, presented 3 names to the candidate, and the candidate made wider consultations and
are you saying that you don't know anything? Because on one hand, you say you don't want to, delve into things that are now in the past.
What is uppermost now is the issue of what value.
The reason why it is important, the reason why it's like as if you want to gloss over it, and you just want to move forward.
It is not issue of glossing over.
But this is what we heard happen. I mean, somebody was here last week to talk about the disquiet that the name of Senator Ifeanyi Okowa has raised. We've also seen statements released by people who maybe under a different fora, under a different organization, but they're people whom we know had supported candidates of the PDP in the past. Raised serious objection to the emergence of Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa as a vice presidential candidate. And these people are from his home base in the south of Nigeria.
Mope, I want to tell you this with all sense of responsibility, that the choice of Ifeanyi Okowa is a perfect choice. And the match of these 2 persons, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Wazir Adama, and Ifeanyi Okowa, is a very perfect match. And definitely, Ifeanyi Okowa is going to add value to this ticket. You see, here is a person who, over the years, from the beginning of the Fourth Republic, has been part of the democratic process. As a councillor, as a local government chairman, as a commissioner, a senator, and becoming a governor, and a performing governor for that matter. You can see how he has transformed Delta states. You can see the youth empowerment program that he rolled out. you can see the kind of role he has played as a stabilizer, even beyond his state, was in the South region, and was in the national space of the PDP. You see, at all times, any time, if Okowa is given a role, he plays it well, he achieves. And this is a very calm and cosmopolitan, knowledgeable, and very comforting as a person.
So
this kind of personality with a disposition to be broad-minded, to be very active and positive-minded whenever conversations, national conversations crop up in the party. You don't look at any other thing from the side, or certain people are aggrieved. Naturally, in a process of selection, whenever I compete for a particular thing, whenever maybe I mention in a particular process that will ultimately select me or another person, it is natural. Human beings are bound to think the way they do, and this is not peculiar to this very case. And in fact, I have never seen an overwhelming consensus and the acceptance of this choice that it has happened in the PDP. Yes.
So I think it's very important to state that, you know, we're not taking anything away from the person or the fact that the PDP has made its choice in vice presidential candidate Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa. Some even say it is highly commendable in a place where, or in an atmosphere where parties are still putting placeholders and have not been able to finish their consultations. Some people will say that it is remarkable and commendable that the PDP has been able to conclude its own, and it leaves it with ample time to be able to deal with, you know, the disquiet or the grumblings that could come as a result of that choice. But what I seem to be hearing from you is that you're about to deny the existence or to downplay or to say that they almost do not exist, that there is wide consensus. From what we hear, it doesn't seem that way at all.
Mope, it's, I want to tell you very clearly that that choice, as far as the majority of the PDP adherents are concerned, as far as the minds of the critical stakeholders and those people who represent the key organs of the party are concerned,
are you saying,
the followership of the PDP
let me ask you,
is a very welcome decision.
Are you saying
and a perfect
are you saying
choice.
that there was no voting within the committee that was set up by the PDP to weigh in on the vice presidential candidate?
Mope, a process whereby a committee is given terms of reference to come up with 3 names. And there were a lot of considerations looking at the South as a very as a PDP control region, except one state, and even in that state, it is only the governorship status we've lost. But the PDP controls the largest structure of party followership in Cross Rivers. So what you have. South is a very critical and important.
All the names that we heard, you know, were on that list were from the South.
Yes, so, yes.
So
and
that's correct, right?
Yes, that was a consideration.
So we heard
and three people were presented. That is part of the terms of reference.
Indeed.
3 people were presented to the flag bearer, and he made his choice, and he has made public why he chose Ifeanyi Okowa. Not that he has any. He has anything having to do with maybe the emphasizing on the roles and the status of.
There are those who believe that this leaves your party, this decision leaves your party with a lot of fence mending to do.
No,
You have to be pacifying a lot of people.
It was a natural process of, and it has fizzled out. It was a natural process Naturally, when you make a choice among many, there seems to be, but the people involved are matured people. They are loyal members of the PDP. They are part of the PDP, and the success of PDP, there will be critical factors in the success of PDP. What you hear, these pockets and some bits of protest or whatever you can call it. These are things that have subsided, they have fizzled out, and they don't matter.
Let me ask you more directly. The decision when the PDP governors were meeting when they decided that the presidency should be zoned to the south of the country, it was decided in Asaba in Delta State. A number of people felt that there was a lack of sincerity on the part of their host for accepting to host that, and then later on, when things did not go the way that the PDP governors had decided, then that it was sort of immoral for him to have accepted that position of being a vice presidential candidate. Has your party been able to get past that reading, that feeling amongst, say, governors in the South?
No, I want to believe that has been taken care of by time, by other consideration, and by this loyalty that the people involved have for the party. That has gone. More pay we are talking about right now about the issue of what value is a fine going to add to this ticket. Now, and when eventually the PDP succeeds, God willing, in the 2023 elections, in terms of governance, in terms of facing the challenges, the pressing issues now before us as a nation, that is the thing that should be uppermost in our mind, that we must focus on these very critical issues. And I believe that this perfect choice will very much add strong and very impacting value to the PPC's quest to rebuild and rescue Nigeria.
Let me flip this to my colleagues in Lagos.
All right, Mr. Haruna, well, you said there's wide acceptance of the VP nominee for the PDP. So in that 19-man presidential screening committee who voted, how many of them voted for Mr. Okowa?
There was no any voting. What transpired was a committee was saddled with the responsibility of presenting 3 names. And those names were presented to the presidential flag bearer of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar was in Adamawa, and he made a dispassionate, objective, and very value-laden choice.
So 16 people,
Okowa.
16 people did not vote for Governor of Rivers, and 3 people voted for Governor Okowa?
Chamberlain, I want to tell you that what transpired was the committee presented 3 persons to the presidential flag bearer, and he made his choice.
Hold on. I said
that I know.
Did 16 people vote for Governor of Rivers State and 3 vote for Governor of Delta State? Yes or no?
For God's sake, 3 names were presented to the presidential flag bearer, and he made his choice.
So
not discounting
there was no
the
voting.
Merits of other people.
The committee did not vote.
The committee presented 3 names to the presidential flag bearer, and he made his choice.
All right.
And you've heard the reasons why he made that choice.
We'll take it that you're saying that they did not vote. That's what we interpret you're saying. So who was the 3rd person in that that they presented?
3 persons were presented.
Who was the 3rd person?
Yes.
Who is the 3rd?
Who was the 3rd person?
Yeah.
Well, can we come back again, please?
You heard me.
Who is the 3rd person?
Yes.
3 persons were presented to the presidential flag bearer, and he made a choice out of the 3 people, and that is Okowa.
You're repeating yourself.
And that has been widely accepted by PDP followership.
Yeah, you're repeating yourself. You asked the question again. Who is the 3rd person? We know of Governor of Rivers, Governor of Delta. Who is the number 3 person that was presented to him?
And Governor of Akwa Ibom, Udom, Emmanuel.
He was presented to the committee.
Yes, these are all valuable leaders in their own right in the PDP.
So, Mr. Seidu, if you deny that, or if you say rather, I beg your pardon, that there were wide consultations and there was no voting, why were Governor Zikpazu, Governor Makinde, Governor Fintiri, Governor Tom, Governor Ugwai, and Governor Wike, why were they absent from that presentation, the unveiling of the VP nominee? Why were they absent?
It is always certain ceremonies, because of certain schedules that will, of course, make them unavoidably absent, could be the factor that that is why they were not there. So, but others were there. And it has always been in meetings, in ceremonies like that, or on occasions like that. You find 1, 2, 3 or the other persons of governors or whatever may not be available because they may be engaged somewhere else, or something may be happening somewhere else that they could be unavoidably absent.
But the report is that,
so that does
these
not in any way implies that...
Mr. Seidu, the report is that these governors are the ones who voted for Governor Wike as the presidential nominee. And how is the party going to deal with the consequences as a result of their disaffection that their preferred candidate for the position of VP nominee was not picked?
No, there was no anything like voting, as you are implying. What took place, what transpired was there was a rigorous scrutiny and a search, and preference was given to South region because of its roles, because of the control the PDP has over that region, and because of it has always been the home base of support of the PDP, and been a critical region in the country, and looking at those personalities, their roles, and that's why they were presented as 3 persons. Any one of them could have been the choice. But eventually, one person has to be picked, and that is it. So what is being said that there was a voting, there was this, there was that. No, what I know is that a committee was given a term of reference of coming up with 3 names, and those 3 names were presented to the presidential flag bearer, and eventually he made a dispassionate, objective choice in the person of Ifeanyi Okoye, and that is the story.
So why have there been no congratulatory messages for Governor Okowa, particularly from Governor Wike, who was not picked? There has been no reaction from him at all. There has been congratulatory messages to Ifeanyi Okoye from all over the place.
I don't want to talk about why one has not done that, because eventually, of course, you don't know. There are conversations in private. You don't know. But what I know is that I have not had any statement coming from any person, a governor or any other person among the PDP leadership, that said that he will not congratulate Ifeanyi Okoye because of certain reservations. And this, for God's sake, these things do not exist in reality. These are all people who make a lot of speculations in the social media and talk about things that are not real. Well, you see, they have not been part of the process. They are not amongst those people that were part of this committee. They were not part of the consultation that was made so wide.
We know the build-up to this whole process.
And that's why you hear
Pardon me, Mr. Seydu, we know the build-up to this whole process, from pre-national convention, the special national convention, to what actually happened during the national convention, to the statements made by at least one of the aspirants about the whole process, how things didn't go the way they ought to have gone, and how we thought that was wrongly done, and of course, how we got here. So these disaffections had been there prior, but I'd just like you to quickly respond to this before I toss it back to Mark. So this is like deja vu, what played out pre-2015 with President Goodluck Jonathan. It looked like some governors, in fact, they had that it was a G7 governors who were not exactly happy with the way things were going in the party. And we saw what happened with the elections, with your party eventually, your party losing out, and the APC clinching it twice now. So aren't you worried that your party may be going down that same route? If these governors are not exactly happy with how things are turning out, perhaps your party might lose out as well.
Never, never. No, never. This time around, much more than ever before, the PDP is united. It is focused. It has the task of galvanizing Nigerians. It has the task of conscientizing Nigerians. It has the task of going along with the feelings, the yearnings, and expectations of Nigerians. Everybody has had that.
Just one more thing.
Has seen that.
One more thing from
the
here
PDP
before.
Having been in power and having performed wonderfully well.
Just one more thing from here.
And having
just a minute.
Strengthen the unity of the country.
Okay, respond to this before we toss it back. There are two things basically now. Two things at the moment. Now, a group think that the chairman of the party, number one, is he going to resign as the meeting of the Northern Caucus agreed, such that a caretaker chairman will be in place? And what happens if the secretary of the party doesn't sign the approval?
Chamberlain, you don't speculate things that do not come. When the time comes for decisions to be made,
was there a meeting or not?
Was there a
meeting of the Northern Caucus with him or not? Yes or no? You should be part of that meeting. Was there a meeting of the Northern Caucus about his position, whether or not he was going to step down?
The most important thing is wait for the party to make the right decision. You don't bulldoze.
This is not speculation now.
You need to stampede the party to come. It has its own program. It has set of decisions it is going to make at the right time. It has timelines for every decision it will make. So the PDP should not, in fact, be stampeded into making a pronouncement when the time for such pronouncements do not come. That is it. PDP abides by whatever pledge it makes. It does whatever it decides to do at the right time and when it will be more rewarding. So, for the fact that certain things were done in 2015, this is not the case. What we have here is a united party supported by its serving governors, supported by its former governors, supported by the BOT, supported by the NWC, the national officers, and its followership all over the country. And the great reservoir of Nigerians that are waiting to see that the PDP brings about meaningful change. And I want to tell you this. Look, if you want to find an antithesis to what is obtaining in the country today, the kind of negative downward developments we're having as a nation, you find that the right party that could do such a thing will be the PDP. And it's in the position to do that. Okay. Its leadership is well informed, knowledge, erudite, and very calm. And we have found in a ticket that present a perfect match. And I am sure the task of delivering Nigeria by the PDP has been cut by about 40%. especially this very ticket now we have got it. Expect as it is.
Mr. Haruna Saidu, I'm sure that, Nigerians are listening to you and they have heard you. If your party is united, time will tell. If it's disunited, time will also tell. I think that we can leave it there, but we wish you all the best as you go on into the polls. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. Mr. Haruna Dandio Saidu is a member of the PDP Board of Trustees and also former chairman of PDP in Kebbi State. Thank you once again for coming on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you for having me.